Let me ask you a question. If someone in your firm resigned tomorrow, would you simply replace them? Most firms would, because we've been taught to think of organizations like machines. A machine has parts. One part breaks, you replace it, and everything carries on working like normal. Simple. But here's the problem. Professional services firms don't behave like machines. They're much closer to living organisms. Everything is connected. Change one part, and every other part has to adapt. Once you start seeing your firm this way, a lot of things suddenly make more sense, such as why good people struggle inside good firms, or why expensive software disappoints, or why AI and other tech initiatives stall, and why throwing more technology at the problem rarely fixes it. My name is Inga, and I help firms validate their operational readiness so their AI and tech investments actually work. And in the next few minutes, I want to show you why changing one simple mental model from machine to organism might completely change how you think about your business. Now, to be fair, we've all inherited the machine mindset, and thinking this way made perfect sense. For more than a century, management theory rewarded efficiency. Businesses were organized into departments, and every department had its own targets, its own manager, its own budget, and its own KPIs. If one team became more efficient, the organization was assumed to become more efficient too. That worked reasonably well when the world used to move much more slowly. But professional services firms don't create value like factories. They're made up of people, of knowledge and relationships, decisions, and trust. And none of those things exist neatly inside departmental boundaries. Think about your body. How your heart isn't trying to outperform your lungs. Your liver doesn't have quarterly KPIs. Your immune system doesn't optimize itself without considering the rest of your body. Every system works together toward one outcome, keeping the organism healthy. Now imagine if your circulatory system suddenly stopped communicating with the rest of your body. Your organs might all still function individually, but the organism would become unstable. Professional services firms work exactly the same way. Finance, sales, and operations might all be performing well. But if the information flowing in between them isn't, the firm isn't healthy anymore. It's just surviving. This is one of the reasons AI has been so fascinating for me to watch in the last few years. Not because it's created new organizational problems, but because it's exposing the ones that were already there. McKinsey found that around 70% of employees believe they're personally ready to start using AI, or they're just using it already. But only 27% of leaders believe their organizations are ready. Well, think about that. The people are saying, I'm ready, but the leaders are saying the business isn't. Those are completely different conversations. McKinsey also found that organizational readiness explains nearly half of the difference between companies that successfully create value from AI versus those that don't. However, for those companies that focused on individual readiness, they only accounted for about a quarter of that same success. And that is a very interesting result because organizations respond by training individuals. They run workshops, or they build AI policies, or they buy prompt libraries, or they teach better prompting. And again, none of those things are necessarily bad on their own, but they're all trying to improve individual capability. Meanwhile, the organization itself hasn't changed. The way work moves, the way decisions get made, the way information flows, the way quality is measured, all of that stays exactly the same. It's like giving an Olympic athlete better running shoes while asking them to win a race with a broken leg. The shoes are not going to be the problem, but the system you're trying to make them perform inside is. Here's an exercise I often encourage leaders to do. Stop looking at departments. Start looking at circulation. Forget your org chart for a moment. Instead, choose one client engagement and follow it from the very first inquiry to the final invoice. Not the happy path, the real one. Watch what actually happens. Where does information stop flowing? Where does someone have to send a Teams message because they can't find the answer? Where does somebody recreate another person's work that was already completed? Where do approvals sit waiting? Where does someone quietly fix an error before the client notices? Those aren't isolated inefficiencies. They're symptoms. Doctors don't assess health by looking at a skeleton. They look at circulation, how blood moves through the body, how different systems interact. Your firm deserves exactly the same treatment. The org chart tells you the anatomy, what all the different organs are. But the work tells you the physiology, basically how everything works together. And physiology is what determines health. This is why I spend so much time talking about capabilities, because there are so many things that capabilities aren't. And one of them is a department on an org chart. Instead, think of it like this. Capabilities are the muscles in the organism. That's your firm. They are the abilities your firm has to achieve its purpose and perform consistently well. A few examples include client intake, scoping work, project delivery, knowledge sharing, quality management, and billing. Do you notice something similar among that list? Every one of those capabilities crosses multiple departments. No single team owns it from beginning to end, which means their health depends on how well people, process, data, and governance are working together in the firm, not how well the individual departments are performing. Here's a simple question. If 3 different project managers delivered the same type of engagement, would clients receive essentially the same experience? Or would the outcome depend entirely on who happened to be assigned? If it's the second, you don't have a strong capability. You have talented individuals, and those aren't the same thing. Aon's study from May this year captures the same mismatch. 88% of employers say AI will require new skills, and 84% agree that human strengths matter more as automation grows. But 4 in 5 organizations are still aiming at automating routine tasks, which usually means
we want people to change, but we won't change the system they're working in.
ultimately, healthy organisms don't and can't rely on heroics. They rely on systems that consistently produce healthy outcomes. Now imagine introducing AI or any other automation tool for that matter into that environment. Can it draft proposals faster? Absolutely. Can it summarize meetings? Yep. Can it help produce reports? Of course. But let's ask a different question. Does everyone agree what a finished proposal actually looks like? Who owns the final decision? Where does the source of truth live? What happens when AI produces something that looks right, but it isn't? Those aren't technology questions. They're operational readiness ones. That's why I always say capability first and tool second. Because AI isn't a capability, nor can it create healthy capabilities. It's an amplifier. And if the capability is healthy, AI can help make it stronger. But if the capability is unhealthy, AI simply spreads the sickness further and faster. You'll produce more, and you'll produce it more quickly, but not necessarily better. You haven't improved the organism. You've just given it caffeine. So you're probably asking, then where should a leader of a professional services firm begin? How do you shift from this machine-first mindset to an organism-first mindset? Well, certainly not with, well, what AI tool should we buy? Instead, ask, which capability are we trying to strengthen? That question is really the one that changes the conversation completely, because now people have to agree on what success actually looks like. Who owns the quality? Where are the decisions going to be made? How should work move through the firm? Only then does any technology become useful, because it now has something that's already healing for it to further improve. And now, when you're measuring progress, you're actually measuring the health of the organism with indicators like cycle time, or amount of rework, or client experience signals, or knowledge reuse, decision quality, or even risk exposure. These now become signs that you can tell whether the organization is getting healthier. Prompts don't count, neither does the number of AI licenses you've purchased. Those are just activity metrics, whereas health, organizational health, is something very different. It's the difference between achieving successful business outcomes or winning that race versus missing arriving at the finish line altogether. If you're not sure how healthy your firm's operating system really is, I've included a link to the 4i assessment in the description below. It measures 3 areas that consistently determine whether firms are ready for successful technology investment, such as process integrity, technology investment readiness, and decision and outcome accountability. It's a mouthful. but it's designed to help you identify where the organism, your firm, really needs strengthening before you invest in another tool. And if you'd like to talk through your results, whether you've started the assessment or not, you can also book a 15-minute consultation using the link that's also in the description. A single conversation before doing anything else could save you months of expensive rework. And if watching this changed how you think about your firm, type organism in the comments and I will read and like every single one. Also, like the video and subscribe if watching this helped you see something you hadn't noticed before. Doing that helps boost the algorithm so more people can see and benefit from content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.